Hello, I'm Anna, the Yarn Randomizer, and this is episode 47 of the Yarn Randomizer. Now I'm going to look at my notes because I always seize up on this front part here. I get comfortable when I start talking about knitting. So this is a knitting podcast, which will be self-evident. And I wanted to welcome folks who've just stumbled up on this podcast and also welcome back to folks who are watching regularly. And actually, that reminds me, I have something to figure out. So I'm going to pause right now and come right All right, back. I'm back. And I just got figured out what I needed to figure out. And so the next thing I wanted to say was you can find me on Ravelry as the Yarn Randomizer, on Instagram as the Yarn Randomizer, and also I'm the Yarn Randomizer at Gmail. And I also have a P.O. box down below listed and Spreadshirt shop down there as well. And then why randomizer? And so the reason why is because my, since 2017, I've been picking yarns at random from my stash using little number chips assigned to the yarns. I have all my yarns in Ravelry. I download them to a spreadsheet, and based on those numbers, I have numbers in my bucket here. And I pick the yarns, or actually I have my husband pick the yarns out of the bucket. So I get something random to figure out what to do with, because I'm definitely a yarn first kind of person. It's less often that I'll find a pattern and look for yarn to buy. I usually look for yarn that I like, and then I'll figure out what to do with it later. And I know that's not everybody's bag, but it definitely works for me. So, all right. So please like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff to help get the channel more exposure and everything. And other than that, let's get right down to it. So first things first, I always like to make you not stay in suspense for the whole episode. So we were giving away this ball of yarn last time, and this is Lucky Violet Color Co. And the colorway is Let the Wookiee Win, which is clearly a Star Wars reference. And so using the random number generator, the name I got was Ada Kropowicki. Oh gosh, I'm sure I'm not saying that right, but it's ADACHROPOWICKI 2108. So if that's you, get in touch with me via email and we'll get this out. I just sent out just the other day the previous two winners. I was able to actually ship a package to Norway without an issue, so I was really happy to be able to do that, and another one here to the US and stuff. And so I always try to send the tracking numbers and everything when I do that, so you can see when it's going to get there. So let me know where you're at, and we'll get this out. And I am going to apologize right now. I hear my dog approaching, and he has got a squeaky toy with him, and I'm hoping he will not be using it a whole bunch. You coming in here, Odo? Oh, okay, hold on. All right, third starts the charm. So I just got that winner named, and so please get in touch with me via Gmail, my Gmail address. And I think the next giveaway, there will be another one this time, will be in the stash management portion later. And I decided to add, the best thing I can call this is kind of like a little video recommendation. I'm going to share a video link that I'm going to recommend that's worth watching. So these will be videos that are like my favorite thing to watch and that kind of stuff. And so I will talk about that later. But I figured I'll add a little something, and it'll be right at the end. So if you're only hanging around for the knitting stuff, you can stick around for that and not worry about that coming up. So that's a new thing I'll be doing at the end. All right. So finally, what am I wearing? I'm not wearing any knitting. The reason why is you can see how bright it is. It's actually been in the 70s yesterday and today. All of a sudden, it was cold last week, and now suddenly spring is here, almost practically jumping forward into summer. But what I did want to show you, and what I was going to wear for today, is I have a ranunculus. So tomorrow is Easter, and so when you're watching this, it'll be Easter, so happy Easter to you. And I am going to be wearing my ranunculus sweater that I made last year. I think this was my Christmas Eve cast on in 2023, and I'm going to wear that tomorrow. And I probably haven't talked about this. I keep wondering how much I've actually said in the past, but my husband is actually a pastor for a church, And I actually work as the office manager for the church, just part-time. I'm retired mainly, but I do that. But it's been a busy week this past week. But yeah, so tomorrow I'll be wearing this. And it is, I tell you, the photographs in the ranunculus pattern might not look that great, but I can't recommend it enough, because using the right combination of yarns, and you can get a very normal looking and very nice looking sweater as a result. And it knits up so quick. It's recommended to knit on size 10, but I use size 10 and a half needles to get gauge. And I don't even get gauge. It's actually, my gauge, I think, is 1 stitch less per 4 inches. And so I knit a size 5, and that makes a sweater that fits me really well. And so, yeah. But yeah, I love this sweater and how it turned out. The colorway is one that was from the Christmas Eve cast-on box from Hypnotic Yarn, and I think it was Christmas Confections in their sock, plush sock yarn. And then I carried a strand of drops, I think mohair silk, in the color pink, which is like pink, like was it? What do you call that? Not magenta or whatever, but very, very bright pink. And I love how the two yarns go together. So this is what I'll be wearing tomorrow. But and I'll have to give that some thought, because if it's this hot tomorrow, maybe not. But I'm hoping to wear this tomorrow. So there'll be links for information down for that below. All right. So that's it for what I'm wearing. So finished objects, I actually have 2. Let me move some stuff out of the way here. I'm going to set this over there. And so I finished the fatigue cap by, oh yeah, it's a Jaeger hand knit. So it was a World War II pattern. And this really, it's pretty funny, because this doesn't look like a whole lot holding it like this. I've got it basically like a muscle hat. It's a long tube, but it's cast off flat at the ends. And I think you can see that. I just did a standard 3 needle bind off on each end. I thought about doing the type of 3 needle bind off where you knit the front, purl the back with the yarn in between, and that produces fabrics that fold over themselves with a chain along the top. But I thought that and Kitchener would produce too rounded of an end. I wanted the ends to be flat, and so I decided for the 3 needle bind off. And this thing is 36 inches long, and this is it folded in on itself. I'll put a picture of my husband wearing it, and he is totally psyched about it. It's pretty funny. But let me unfold this for you. So, and I want to either adjust my feet up a little bit. There we go. A little bit higher. Yeah. And so when you unfold this, you have a 36-inch scarf. Let me pull out the point here. And let's see. It was, I think, it was interesting when I first cast each end off and tried to flatten, kind of press the tube out. It looked kind of torsioned or distorted a little bit, like it didn't want to flatten out right. And I was a little worried about that. But once I soaked it and blocked it, it just flattened right out, no problem. And so I'm going to be really careful about the microphone at my neck. And now I just tapped it already. But basically, this is enough. Unblock the microphone there. This is enough to wrap around your neck under your coat to stay warm like a scarf. And then it's like 4 layers around your head and a squared off top. So he's thrilled with it, and he'll fold it every which way to wear it, I'm sure. He likes to have a lot of extra. I had him wear the hat the way I think it should be worn, and then he'll wear it, I think, with it stretched out much taller on the top, because he likes to have what slouchy hat is, or a stand-up hat and stuff. So yeah, but I'm really thrilled with how it turned out. It felt long. And so it was a total of, I think, over 700 yards, I believe. And so it ended up, it's at least the equivalent of 2 pairs of socks, if not verging into a 3rd pair of socks. And so it was great mindless knitting. it seemed like it took a long time when it feels like it shouldn't. It was only, 700 yards of yarn. I don't know if I should say only, but yeah, I love how it turned out. And it was, again, the best travel knitting because there was nothing to think about with it the whole time. The only time I had to fiddle with it was when I joined in the second ball. And let's see, I don't know if you can see where I joined in the second ball. I went to great pains to try to line up the pattern in the yarn in the next skein. So let's see, I'll show it to you and you'll see it. So it's here that the next ball starts. And so I kind of lined it up a little bit. There's a little bit of a jog there, but not much, and a little shift in color. But really, when you look at the whole thing, it looks pretty cohesive. And so, yeah. And so that, I recommend it for a long pattern. It's a lot. It's a lot folded over and everything. It is a lot of hat. But for my husband and his big, I think he has 23.5-inch circumference around his head, it works really well. And all the details on this are in the pattern. As far as the modifications, I added more stitches to accommodate his head and otherwise. And that was yarn my husband got for me on one of his motorcycle trips. And so it came back to him in a really neat form. So yeah. So that's the first finished object. And then I have a half finished object, and that is my Bel Dour Sock. See if I can hold that up there. It is a great pattern. I really enjoy it. And so I think I had finished through the heel last time, and then so I just did the leg and did the ribbing. Everything on this is according to pattern except for the toe. The pattern uses an umbrella toe, and I did it the first time I made these socks and decided it's not worth the bother. I decided I didn't like it, so I just did my own, just a little wedge toe. Started with 14 stitches on each side and increase every other row until I got to the number of stitches required for the pattern, and then just followed the pattern after that. Part of the pattern is you have to, like this was the 72 stitch version of the pattern. This is on size 1.5 needles, and I slid a stitch from the back to the front at one end, because the front is supposed to have 37 stitches in the back 35 when you're working it. And so I just made that adjustment once I finished the toe. But yeah, it's got a really interesting short row heel that's similar to a Flegel heel. And then it's got, but instead of doing the decreases along where the short rows are, it does the decreases along a wedge, increases up to here, and then decreases down to here along kind of a little rounded area on the back. It's just a 2x2 rib at the top. And it's a great, let's see if I can hold this up there a little bit if you can see the detail. It's a great slip stitch pattern. And so I've got some good close-up pictures of it in my project, and I really highly recommended it, particularly for variegated yarns. It really does a good job of kind of defeating, I feel like it defeats pooling. I don't think you see any pooling in this. Now it could be according to the dyeing patterns, but it really ends up breaking it up nicely. And I like seeing the different color strands across different color backgrounds here that you see. But yeah, I think that's everything I had about that. And this is Hypnotic Yarn Plush Sock that this is done in. Oh, and the fatigue cap is in Companion Fiber, their fingering weight yarn that my husband had picked up somewhere. All details are in the projects down below. Let's see, and I think, oh, and what I wanted to talk about was I got the length on this perfect. I got the foot to fit with just the right amount of negative ease. And so she had great instructions in the pattern for that. My foot, I wear size 11 shoes. And so my foot is 10.5 inches long. And so if you take 90% of that to get a 10-inch negative ease, 10% negative ease, excuse me, that means doing about 9.45 inches. I just do 9.5 inches in length along the bottom. And I always get a perfect fitting sock based on that. So socks generally should be negative ease, and so it's great to take your actual length and multiply that times 90% to figure out where you need to get. So yeah, so I think that's everything about that. So I won't promise having this one finished for next time, but I did get one of them finished. So, and I've got the other one cast on already. That's right here. I'll show that to you really quick. Put this one down. I always like to start the next sock right away, and I've never had second sock syndrome, and I didn't think that much about it. It was just one of those things for me. It was just kind of automatic to, I'm so excited to be able to wear a pair of socks. And so got the toe done, started with the slip stitch pattern just now. And so that will just work on, and in the pattern, in my pattern page, I have how many repeats of the pattern I do for the foot and for the leg and everything. So all the details are there. All right. So that's the Bel Dour Socks by Natalia Vasileva. I love the pattern. And for you folks who, instead of being toe up, are top down, she, in her pattern, has both versions. So a top down and a toe up. So it goes both ways. In the pattern, you're supposed to knit one down and one up. But yeah, I just knit them toe up. And if you're a cuff down kind of person, that's there for you. So I highly recommend the pattern. All right, so now I decided what I would do this week, and this isn't the beginning of the year, but I thought I would do a total WIP review starting now. And you might notice I didn't have another finished object you might have anticipated, so we'll get to that. All right, so I'm going to start from my oldest to my newest WIP and talk about what they are and what the situation is. So we will start. I think I buried my oldest WIP down here. Let me move some of this. Get this here. All right. Get this up here. All right. All right. My oldest WIP is what I call my National Park blanket. Now let's see, make sure I got the right side showing. Here we go. All right. So this is a pattern called Farmhouse Afghan. Yes, that's correct. And so what I am doing is I have some brown, this is all in Lorna's Lace's shepherd sock. And the brown colors in here are some, just one of the main color, it's called driftwood. And I have it separating sections that have yarns from Lorna's Laces that were named for National Park. And I think this one is Petrified Forest. I think this is maybe Red Rock or Volcanoes National Park. Oh, Petrified Forest is the one I'm working on now. First one was a different one. I'd have to look. But I've got the names of all the yarns in the project page. And so the idea is I'm doing this. It's a bulky weight blanket that's going to be the National Park blanket, kind of a throw that I'll have around. And I haven't worked on it. I started it in April 2020, and then I stopped. And one of the things about it that's kind of a pain is to get this bulky weight with the fingering, I'm using 4 strands of fingering with this. But that's not a huge problem. It's mainly, I don't know what's kept me from coming back to this, but I did make a decision this year that used to, if I picked one of the National Park yarns using the randomizer, I would skip it. But from now on, I've decided if a National Park yarn gets picked, that I will go ahead and use it and do it in the blanket. So the blanket will get worked as the yarns in the stash for it get picked out with the randomizer. So you may see this coming back sometime or another. And probably after I finish this year with the other blanket that I'm working on, I may make this the annual project, and it probably be even shorter than annual, but make it the blanket project for next year. But yeah, and one of the things to know is this pattern is it's one of those ones where it says, oh, it's no longer available on the internet. But if any of you know about the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine, as some people joke about for the internet, there's a link in my project that will take you to the pattern, or a link. I'll make sure there's a link down below so you can get to that pattern if you're interested in it, because you can still find it on the Wayback Machine. So yeah, so it's still out there, and it's a very nice pattern. It's a standard wedge kind of pattern in a garter stitch, and it's very squishy and very easy to do. So yeah, so my National Park blanket, that's my oldest WIP, started in April 2020. Now, the next one, and I know everybody, oh no, it's not, it's still not going to be, I don't think it's the, well, okay, we'll skip that for now. Let's see, I thought it was going to be this other project, but it's actually a 10 stitch blanket. Now this one definitely does wait until, I always add to it when leftover bits of fingering get picked out of my stash. And so there it is. And it's not very far. And it's a fingering version of the 10 stitch blanket. And I've added what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yarns into here. And so the idea is if I get some of my leftovers picked that really don't really have a good project for them or something, I just put them in here as far as fingering. And so as stuff comes up, it gets knitted in here. It's been a while since I've added something to it, but I'm hoping, I think there's going to be something added here soon. But yeah, 10 stitch blanket, and I can't remember who that's by. Let me take a look at that really quick. And I use a specific version of the method to join the pieces, and I talk about that in my project as well. Quick projects, filters, there it is. It is by Frankie Brown, and in my project I talk about how I use it's Alacan's Myrtillo blanket. I look at her version. She has a good method for joining pieces to get this raised edge between the colors. I like that detail, and so I wanted that, and so I'm using her method for joining the new yarns and stuff as it goes along. But yeah, so 2 blankets that are sort of, they're in my hibernating status, and they get activated now when yarn comes up from the randomizer to add to them. So after that, so this is the one that I think people are curious about. So I am knitting it's a motorcycle sweater from Mary Maxim. It's a pattern from 1961, and let me put in a picture of it. And it's an old-fashioned looking pattern. Mary Maxim had a cardigan shape that they put all kinds of intarsia patterns on, and so this one's a motorcycle version. And I have finished both of the sleeves. I have both of those. They're done. And I have finished, I had started on the back and then stopped because the intarsia was driving me crazy on the back, and I still have to think about that some, but I decided to go on to the front. So I'm on the front sections, and there you see a motorcycle helmet there in intarsia and a little racing flag down there on the pocket. And it's got a pocket there, and it's got actually really nice, I like this opening for the pocket. And so that's as far as I've gotten. It's been sitting there, and oh my gosh, when did I start this? Let's see if it's the 10 stitch blanket was April 2022. So let's see when this one was. This was June 2022. So it is just a couple months started later after the 10 stitch blanket. But so yeah, so I just need to buckle down and continue on this. You can see this wedge of gray coming in here now, and these little 4 stitch squares extend along the front. So I just have to finish the top of this and then do the front for the other side, and then the back, and sew it together. And it has kind of a shawl collar and a zipper that gets installed. The one change I made to the pattern is I've been doing this particular slip stitch pattern. I have it linked in the video to produce a nice rounded edge. Some of this, that looks a little uneven there. This kind of rounded edge, so there'll be a good place to sew a zipper into and have a nice edge at the zipper when it all comes together. So yeah, so it's a motorcycle sweater from Mary Maxim, and there is what I have up to. So, and I can tell you, I think if it were regular intarsia where it were large sections, it would be one thing, but it's got some fiddly bits in there of intarsia, and I don't enjoy it. But I really am so looking forward to having it as a finished object so that I can see what a kick my husband gets out of it. So it's one of those things where it's like, that one, I'm not enjoying the process so much, but I definitely have a desire for the finished object. So I've got to figure out a plan for getting that done. So that's the third oldest work in progress I have. And then we get to stuff that you've been seeing this year. So you have my next one in the list is my Felix Cardigan that I started last year. And so I did not get to this in the past 2 weeks. I was so focused in finishing that hat and also doing that sock that I did not end up picking this up, but it will be a priority these next 2 weeks. Now that things are less busy, once the Easter holiday is done, and I'll have a little more free time over the next couple of weeks. So let me see if I can kind of see all the different needles and everything that are hanging here. I unbuttoned it for some reason, but let me hold it up this way. So there is the raglan area with the lace and one sleeve. And I will say that that raglan, I think the raglan section on top is a little long. And so I picked a pretty generous size so that it would be nice and loose. And maybe I went a little too far, but we're going to see how it all comes together. Great buttons for it and everything. And this is knit with Lorna's Laces Resistance combined with brushed alpaca from Drops. And so both in a red color. And I think the color is turning out great. And it really doesn't have that long to go. I just have to finish the 2 sleeves and it will be ready to go. I already did both the neckband and the button bands, and I'm looking forward to having that done. And you can see it's got a really matte kind of soft texture to it. So I think it'll be really cozy. But I'm a little concerned about the length of the yoke. And so we'll see how that looks. It could be that it's just a very relaxed fit sweater, and we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, so that is the Felix Cardigan by Amy Christophers. And I'll get that. I will have that done for the next episode. All right. Now, next, I have so that one I didn't make progress on. Everything, it's only the finished objects and the blanket that I really worked on this past couple weeks. But I want to show all these so that we get a look at all the WIPs. So it's actually a total number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 works in progress. That's not bad. Let's see now. I think the motorcycle sweater really represents an anomaly for me. Typically, other than the blankets kind of waiting around to be done, other objects tend to get done at a better pace, but that one has been a tough one. All right, so this is the Satma Shaw by Vera Valimaki, and this is being done up in a couple of single ply yarns, one from Madeline Tosh, their Tosh Merino Light, and one is I think the skinny, is it the skinny singles? Yeah, hedgehog fiber skinny singles in the color, I believe that's Oracle. It's Great Gray Owl and Oracle. And so this is a shawl that has garter and then 2-color brioche, some more garter in the contrast color, and then single color brioche. And then once this gets done, it'll be another section of 2-color brioche and then another section of garter. And so this is going to be a really lovely and very squishy shawl. And this is another one. Now that I've got the hat finished off, that long hat, this is another thing that will get more attention over the next couple of weeks. Now, that's that one. And then the Christmas Eve cast on, which I haven't shown for a while. So let me grab that. And so this Christmas Eve cast on that I did for 2024 was done in Hypnotic Yarn again, their Christmas Eve cast on box. So the pink sweater earlier was one from the previous year. This is from their last year. And I think this was Vintage Ornaments or, oh no, might be, actually, I want to get the name of this yarn because it's very appropriate for this sweater. It is Christmas Confection. So I think, now I can't remember what, the name of the other sweater, that yarn will be in that project. But this is Christmas confections, and the idea was, like cookies and things like that. So baked goods. And so here is the beginning of this is the Campsite Classic by Alicia Plummer. And so it doesn't look, it's mainly the yoke right now. And I'm actually finished with a good chunk of the yoke. I just have a few more rows of increases to do. And I am really happy with, let me show you at the back of it, how this colorway is really nice and scattered and not pooling. I took a chance on only using a single skein at a time, and I think it's turning out great. This is going to be a really cozy, and I think it'll mainly be a Christmas sweater, but we'll see how it turns out. And so yeah, so the Campsite Classic will have kind of some lace detail further down. I'm not sure how well that will show, but I think if I wear like a bright red shirt underneath, that will show through in a really interesting way. And yeah, so the yarn, this is their DK weight. I think it's plush DK. Is that it? Yes, plush DK. And I really like how it feels knitting it up. And she just does an incredible job dyeing her yarns. And so this one has been sitting and waiting, and it's really waiting until I finish that. The other sweater, oh my goodness, brain freeze. It's waiting until I finish the Felix cardigan, yes. And so once I finish that Felix cardigan, this will be picked up and worked on in earnest. So there's that one, covering the floor with knit stuff. And finally, the year-long blanket project. So I finally got into the dip stitch section, which I think, yeah, I had finished the previous section, so it's just now into the dip stitches, if you can see that. And so this section will take until I think sometime in mid-June. And this is made of Lancava Mayaneo, their DK weight yarn, and it's from Finished Knits. And I like I always say with this project, I bought it because it was more reasonably priced. It's not, it's I think $8.99 a skein right now. I hope it's still $8.99 a skein. And it's, when you need 16 skeins of DK for a blanket, that's a much more reasonable price point than $30 a skein. And so this is more than 25% done. The dip stitches are going on now. And the trickiest thing for me is making sure I give these enough length here. And I've kind of worked out a method to do that, which I think is working pretty consistently. And so yeah, so this continues. It's almost at 30% done. Let's see, hold that up. And so yeah, almost 30% there. And I think when I finish this next row, it'll be 30% done. And so that one continues through the rest of the year. I work on that almost every day. Sometimes some rows I have more than one day to complete them, so I kind of stretch it out a little bit sometimes. But yeah, so that one's progressing really well. So that's a very short WIP parade. It's not like I'm not coming through, not criticizing people who have more WIPs. I can tell you, it has been super hard to resist casting on something else, but I have been trying to be disciplined about it and try to wrap some of these up because I want to get my WIP list a little shorter and get to cast on a couple of things. So I'm hoping that before next time, I'll have a couple of new cast-ons to show off. So now the daily task has been neglected still. No, somehow I've got to find a way to bribe myself into finishing this shawl. And this is the Trellis Wrap that has many ends. I think I've woven in about a third or 2/5 of the ends, and so I've got a ways to go. And there's some complexity to weaving in these ends on this, and that's what slows me down. Again, it kind of takes a little bit of the fun. It's a little more laborious on this because of the eyelet separation from the edge. When you have yarn color changes almost every row, in some case, you've got a lot to weave in through these little bars that attach this garter stitch edge to this wrap. So I'm going to have to come up with a way to kind of motivate myself to really get this done. I do have to start picking up on my weave in 10 a day because I've got plenty of unfinished ends on my blanket. So maybe I'll use that as a way of kind of getting started. But yeah, it's still waiting. All right, now let's see. Oh, on the retreat front, I had talked last time about the retreat that I went to in Great Britain, but as it turns out, here in Ohio Dyer, or if you can call it a Dyer, Ohio Yarn Company, Bare Naked Wools, is having a retreat. This is their first retreat. They'll be happening in June. And so as soon as that news came out, I made sure to, sign up to be notified. And I signed up, and I'll be going there in June this year. So if any of you folks are going there, I'll be there too. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can see all the information about it, but I cannot wait. So, all right, so finally, I think we are down to the Yarn Randomizer pick. And if you watch the little short, you know that it is this incredibly beautiful blue yarn. This is from Mandy's Makings, and this is her sock yarn, and this color is A Trip to Italy. Now, this came as a share a pair, and so Mandy's Makings, if I'll put a link to her Etsy shop down below, she has these share a pair sets where it's two 50-gram skeins of two different colors, and they're kind of wrapped in pairs, so you can share a pair of those skeins with a friend, and you can both make the same sock. So I made, at that time, these socks. Both my friend Levon, I gave her the other set of skeins, and we both made these Vertigo socks. So these are the Vertigo socks, and it's actually the Vertigo pattern. I used the Vertigo pattern, and I put it on my favorite sock pattern, the Ringwood socks, because I like doing toe up. Vertigo pattern is cuff down. And I did toe up, and instead of just regular striping, I used helical knitting on these. And so you can see how the helical knitting starts right here. You just start a color, and the two colors spiral around together, and you have basically no crossover point inside. Let me show that to you really quick. So you'll see that there's no place where the yarns are crossing, being switched and carried here inside. So it's a great technique if you haven't tried it for doing single row stripes. And I've used it on multiple occasions, and it works really well. One thing I do want to say, and maybe this is a warning for folks, you'll notice the blue here, and you'll notice this looks a little faded. And you know what happened? So these go into the washing machine. I wash these in the washing machine. And what happens, I usually use Tide Ultra, and that has never been a problem, but the grocery store is out, and so I got some Tide with Oxy, and I swear to you that Tide with Oxy has faded a lot of my socks, and I'm convinced that's what's happened to them. So I've got to make sure I get the kind of Tide that doesn't have Oxy in it when I'm doing wash with my socks. But that's your PSA for the day. But yeah, so the question is, what do you do with this? It's just 41.5 yards. And so I had an idea. And so a few years ago, I think about 5 years ago or so, I made a Christmas ornament on the request. My husband asked me to make a couple of knits for some dear friends of his. And so I made a Wonder Woman shawl for her and a husband and wife, and I made a Superman ornament for the Christmas tree for him, and I'll put in a picture of that. It is super cute. And it is, you knit around a plastic ornament ball. Well, when I got that, I actually got a set, I think it's about 10 of them. So I still have 9 more. I have these plastic ornament balls. And I looked at some patterns that use short lengths of yarn, and there are some nice patterns out there for knitted ornaments. And I thought it would go really well with my mini ornaments of, sweaters and socks and things like that I have for the tree, that I could make a couple of knitted ornaments that have this ball with knitting on the outside. And so I looked around, and I found a pattern. Let's see, I forgot to list it here. Short on my notes there. So let me find this really quick. I have it linked in the yarn, and it is put in the picture here. So it's from a pattern called 12 Days of Baubles Part 1. And isn't that pattern with the cables on it so cute? I think that would be great. I actually bought her booklet, 12 Days of Baubles. So I have parts 1, part 2, and part 3. You saved a third of the cost by buying all as a book instead of buying them all individually. And so that'll give me a variety of knit patterns for these. And so I'm thinking this will look great in the cables. Now, once I finish this ornament, and this is a little bigger than what's called for in the pattern, but I will adjust by doing some more increases and stuff, and then adjusting on decreases won't be a problem. But once I finish making this ornament, any leftover I have of this, because it'll be so little, I'm going to put into the 10 stitch blanket. So I will cover that too as that gets done. But yeah, that'll be totally fun. I love that with my yarn randomizer, it's not just whole skeins, but even all my leftovers are documented in there. And so it's really fun sometimes to figure out what to do with these leftover bits of yarn. I did look to see if there was another sock yarn I thought this would go with, but I didn't see any that I thought it would work with. So I'm just going to make an ornament, add the rest of it to my blanket, and that'll be Yarn Randomizer pick number 10 for the year. So that's that. All right. Now, next is acquisitions. And so, confessions here. I love that Madeline-Tosh Prairie in the colorway Abiquiu so much that I wanted more of that colorway. So I looked around and I found Madeline-Tosh in the Tosh DK in the Abiquiu colorway, and I picked up 4 skeins of this. Now, I have an idea. This wouldn't actually be for a sweater. I have a big, I think it'll be for a wrap that I have in mind, a pattern that I saw that I think it'll work really well for. But I just love this colorway. It is so great. I love the turquoises. One of the things that was really cool about Ghost Ranch was hiking there, you would find turquoise on the ground, scattered about and stuff in different areas. And so I like the browns and everything with the turquoise, remind me of that area. And so I definitely wanted, this was definitely, I didn't need this, but I definitely wanted it. And so I picked it up. So that was the only yarn acquisition. Now I have been watching, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the name. I'll put the link. I've been watching a fellow's podcast out of Cleveland, and he had talked about, this is the spinning loft from the Cleveland area. And this is a beautiful, tall canvas bag with some really nice handles. And it's got a zippered top. And so it's a great sweater size bag. I love it. And so I picked this up from them based on his recommendations. He was talking about some of the a bag that he had from there, and it's just really just adorable. And so I picked this up. It's really, the quality of the workmanship is fantastic, and it's a great bag. I like deep, nice bags with a bottom and stuff, and I really love that this has a zipper on the top. Same time I bought those, I picked up a couple of yarn cozies from her, and so these were 2, I think her smaller size yarn, 8-inch cozies that I picked up from her, and they're really cute. And they're obviously, these are smaller than some standard cozies, but I think they'll work for some of my leftover skeins. And so, and what was really nice was she sent along a 9-inch cozy, so I could see what that looked like as far as size, just in case I didn't realize how small the 8-inch ones were. So that was very kind of her and really sweet. I've got to do a good review for her efforts, for the quality of what she's got here, and the fact that she went to the effort of helping me understand, see the difference in the size. So that was great. So that's Spinning Loft. I'll link them in the show notes below. Finally, two other little oddball things. So we did an IKEA trip this week. I picked up a few things, but one of the things I picked up, take a look at that. I'm trying to remember what this is called, but they have a variety of sizes of these at IKEA, and my little storage containers for leftover bits of yarn that are less than 10 yards are full. And so I wanted to get one where I could stack a bunch up in here. And so here it is. I have two of these. So yeah. And I think they're pretty reasonably priced and really so nice. So I got two of those. I'll link what these are below. And then finally, my husband came home with a little surprise. Let's see where I've got it sitting. It's down there. Unbury this from the yarn. All right. Let's see if I can grab this. So one of my husband's favorite stores is Harbor Freight. And so he had an errand to run at Harbor Freight the other day. And when I came home, I was off doing something else. When I came home, this was sitting in my office. And what this is a miniature toolbox. It's got a top area, and it's got a couple of drawers. I think they're held closed magnetically. There's a deeper one. Ooh, there. So yeah, it's just cute. Now it's really nice because this matches he gave me for Christmas one year a nice toolbox that's on wheels there that holds most of my knitting supplies and some tools. I have a drawer for tools as well. And so this is just a nice addition to that. Very silly. I think it was like $19.99. I'll link it if I can find the link for it. But yeah, it was really sweet. All right, let me set that down gently. There we go. Now, let's see, where are we at? Stash management. So, I am, of course, running behind. I think I'll put in a little image. I'm running behind on keeping up with stash incoming and outgoing. I want twice as much yarn going out as I have coming in. And so I'm behind. And so I am going to be giving away a little bit more yarn. So now I'm actually going to do two giveaways this time. And here's what they are. So these are two different colors of brushed. It's Garn Studio Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk. And so I have 7 skeins of each. And so this one is I think it's blue steel. Yeah, this is the steel blue color here. And this is their Schwarz black color here. And so I'm trying to think, this is brushed alpaca. And so let's think about what keyword to use, because we don't want to talk about giveaways in the comments, because we don't want the scammers to show up. More about scammers later. But let's say, I would say just mention alpaca and mention the color. So mention the steel blue or black or Schwarz. Either way, I'll figure it out. And so mention that in the color that you're interested in. And I will be giving away both of these at the beginning of the next show. And so, yeah, so that's what's going on in my stash. Now that helps me catch up. I was at a quarter of the way covering my purchases for this year. This will help me get to 1/3 of the way. And so, and if anybody that is new here or has missed it last time, my challenge this year is if I don't use up twice as much yarn as I buy and bring in, then at the end of the year, I have to destash to make up the difference, and that goes to somebody here. The other thing I haven't talked about a lot recently is the money coming into the podcast. And so I had given away the first $100 to a viewer to use at their local yarn shop. I'm almost to the second 100. So basically what's going to happen is 100 goes to a user to support a local yarn shop. The next 100 goes to charity. And then the last 100 goes to me. And I'm just going to rotate it as it comes in. And so I'm almost up to doing a charity donation. So I think I'll be ready to do that and announce that next time, and to see what charity I give the money to. So yeah, it's exciting to have that going on. All right, so that's that. Now, I did do a recording of doing my fatigue hat where I had dropped a bunch of stitches at one end to make it smaller, and I had to unravel that part and knit from there. And I did record that, just needed to edit and upload. I've got a couple more videos I want to do, but I wanted to mention, was it like some of the podcasts, they talk about, oh, what have I been watching and that kind of thing, or knit and chat and that kind of stuff. And so I thought I would talk about a video. I would try to share a video each week that I think is a really good video and worth watching. So, and I love, and these are videos I just love. I just really enjoy watching them anyway. And so yeah, so these are, so my background is I'm a mathematician. My degrees are in mathematics, and I worked in mathematical software for many years. And so I'm a little geeky. I play a lot of video games by myself and with my sons and my brother. And I'm interested in science and mathematics. I mean, one of my favorite things lately is the videos that come up that show SAT math problems. I love to look at them and figure them out and then play it to see how they figure it out. But the video I wanted to recommend is a video from Mark Rober. Now, he used to work at NASA, and he does all kinds of interesting sort of science and technology related videos. But he's got a great one called Glitter Bomb Trap Catches Phone Scammer. Now, the reason why I recommend this, for one thing, it's an enjoyable watch. He's a really good YouTuber. He has very entertaining videos and very interesting videos and fun. But this one's really good because it shows how those phone scammers do what they do. And so you'll see they helped keep a couple of people from being scammed out of $12,000 and $18,000 in this video. And they also show how the scammers go about executing the scam. So it's really worth seeing. So I will be including a link below, or I'll put even a link on screen for that. I'll try that out. I haven't done that before, but I will do that. So I will try to have something like that each week as a recommended video. And so yeah, I think that's it. So I think here the weather, spring has definitely sprung. I just ordered a bunch of flower seeds that our last risk for frost is usually May 1st. And so I like to plant a bunch of zinnias outside and have a bunch of pots in front of the house that I'll plant zinnias in. And I want to plant some cucumbers this year as well. And so I'm going to get that all out there here soon. And then I hope you're enjoying the weather where you're at. We did have way too much rain for April. And so it's been pretty wet here, but now it's finally warming up and really feeling like spring, even verging into summery. And I know it must be getting cold and feeling like the beginning of sweater weather, perhaps in the southern hemisphere, and that would be nice too. But yeah, I think that's the main things going on. But otherwise, I hope you're experiencing kindness in your life and being able to give it in return, and taking good care of yourself as well. I try to do that for myself when I can. And otherwise, I hope you really are enjoying your knit.